Aloha.
Shout out Pearl Harbor, by the way.
Hello and welcome. We're back from theballerlifestyle.com. It's the Baller Lifestyle Podcast. My name is Brian Beckner. This is a special bonus episode of the Baller Lifestyle Podcast. We are discussing the recent 30 for 30 podcast special, the name of which escapes me. Something Shohei.
The betrayal of Shohei Ohtani.
The betrayal of Shohei Ohtani. I am joined by a special guest this week, of course, the great reality Steve. Steve, how are you, buddy?
Good. Two things. Number one,
Tell me.
that's not our normal opening song. Isn't it like some rap song or whatever?
Yeah, because normally that's a good point. That's nice that you point that out. You've made it to the big time, buddy. This is the Baller Lifestyle Podcast.
Shit.
You have appeared here before, just for the record. You have been on this show before. Unlike your daily sports podcast, which I've only ever appeared on once, and it was many years ago. You've been on here multiple times. Now, normally we feature you on the Bachelor Lifestyle Podcast, but this week you've made it up. That's like the Tulsa Drillers. Typically, you're playing for the Tulsa Drillers or the Ontario Tower Buzzers, but now you're at the show. This is Dodger Stadium, buddy. It's a big time.
And we're doing it, and we're doing a podcast on a very famous Dodger, so it makes a lot of sense here. My second point is I want, when you introduce Jason, just make sure you preface it by saying Stu Gott's his favorite producer.
We are also joined by fan favorite, someone who's been here on the Baller Lifestyle Podcast many, many times. He likes to keep it consistent. He is a great friend of the show, perhaps the best friend of the show, and of course, someone called Stu Gott's his favorite producer. Of course, I'm talking about the great Jason Stewart. Jason, how are you, buddy?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Stu Gott's has an incredible circle of producers, talented individuals.
How many does it take?
I am just happy to be recognized and mentioned in their presence. So thank you.
You nursing a little head cold there, buddy? You sound a little nasal. You got a little nasal.
Little summer cold. You know, the summer colds that you hear all about.
Well, I mean, Mr. Stewart and his hot girlfriend were hanging out in upstate New York for a week.
The Finger Lakes.
Probably where he got sick.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. That'll happen at the Finger
What was
Lakes.
that for? Is it family out there? Your family? Her family? Why
My
there?
entire family is from upstate New York. My dad lives there, and all his relatives, all my mom's relatives. Yeah, it was a family trip with my son and his fiance. It was just wonderful. We saw Niagara Falls. Have you guys done Niagara Falls yet?
Oh, it's breathtaking.
You haven't done it?
Never done it.
Yeah.
Did you do Maid of the Mist, that thing that they did on The Office? For the
Yes. The most cliched tourist thing you could do there. We did it. $50 to go about 10 minutes. But I can't say I regretted doing it. It's almost like you got to do it because no one will ever forget being on the Maid of the Mist.
You get misted on?
Oh, yeah.
Very.
Little overspray.
Whole spiel.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. So, you didn't want to do this is not a great white shark in a sea of baller podcasts, right?
No, but I
usually have a few
this.
things you like to hit.
No, I will say this. So Steve has agreed to put him on his feed as well. I don't know if he's going to live up to that, but
has agreed to. Hold on, you're soft pedaling the language there. He's asked to also run this show on his feed.
Yeah,
it's not like we asked him. It's he's interested.
I came forward and said, "I'm running it on my feed next week."
It's actually his idea. Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Sorry to interrupt you.
I'm just saying this is the first cross promotional pod that we've ever done. It's very exciting. It's a podcast on a podcast.
Yep.
As you know, this is very 2026.
So meta.
And instead of choosing the video investigative series that 30 for 30 is, ESPN chose to try to elevate their podcast platform to do this 30 for 30, which was very popular, supposedly.
Yep.
And now we are doing a podcast on a podcast. We're just feeding the beast, and it's our first cross promotional with Reality Steve, and I'm fucking excited about it.
It's really exciting. They put some money into it. Yeah,
I do want to say this was my idea, by the way. I approached you guys to be like, hey, I think we should do a podcast on the Ohtani podcast. After I had listened to the first 3 episodes, I'm like, we got to do this. We're all baseball fans. We're all Dodger fans. It's relevant to what we do.
Oh, Steve is also a fantastic producer. This is a great idea. Look, I just show up. I have no ideas. I just come in. I call people fat and ugly, and we leave. That's what we do. So this is. I appreciate both you guys bringing this to me. I thought we'd start by what was everybody's sort of preconceived idea of this story going in. I'll just say what I learned from the show sort of just filled out kind of what I was picturing. This Ippéi is, oh no, I'm getting texts. You guys can't hear that, but I gotta go. Do not disturb mode over here. Not very unprofessional of me. Don't tell Stu Gotts. I feel like Ippéi was a guy that swindled Shohei Ohtani to some degree, and that's kind of what we got. We got the sort of the full picture of this guy Ippéi just being a bad guy, and I have a theory on it that I could share later. But what are your thoughts? What did you think going into it, Reality?
Gosh, I didn't know. I knew the basics, but I had the same question, I think, as most people when this story came out was, and a lot of people that are doubting, they might just be Dodger haters. So, of course, their first take is going to be, oh, well, Shohei was the one gambling the whole time, clearly, and he just had his buddy take the fall for him. I think that question was answered as a definitive no if you listen to this podcast. I think there were 3 things that could be possible about this case. Number 1, Shohei was the one that placed all the bets. Yep. He got caught, and he turned it on to his translator. Number 2, the first story that Ippéi told the reporter, which was, I gambled, I lost all this money, I went to Shohei, I asked him, can you bail me out? He said yes, and he paid him off for me. And that's story number 2. And then story number 3 is what actually happened, which was, oh, no, Shohei knew nothing about it until you guys contacted him. And so the question then becomes, as a listener and as a viewer, what do you believe happened of those 3 scenarios? Those are the only 3 that it could be. And I was torn between 2 and 3 probably. And then I always had the question, how does a guy not know that he's having millions of dollars stolen from his bank account? Like, he had to have known. And then I will listen to the podcast, and I'm like, I think I have an answer as to why he wouldn't have known. So,
because he's so fucking rich.
Yeah.
He never looked at his Angels money.
That's the answer, because you and I, who, we don't swim in hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. We probably check our bank account, I don't know, every day, every other day. If you have a bank account where you're getting direct deposit every 2 weeks or every 4 weeks that has 12 figures in it, why do you check your account statement? You don't. Yeah. So he wouldn't know that shit was getting stolen from him.
It was going to like his rainy day. Oh, I forgot I had that account. His entire professional salary, he never one time looked at
and opened the account. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Never made a transaction in it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Jason, your thoughts. What did you think going in? You're typically very conspiracy minded. You're looking for the cracks in the story. You feel like we're not ever getting the real story. You like to sleuth things out. Is that the angle you came in with?
Yes. So I was almost fully in the fall guy camp.
Yeah.
Coming into the podcast. And people would be like, but he's going to serve, 20 years in federal prison. I'm like, yeah, that's the extent that a great fall guy goes through when he knows that, maybe his family will be taken care of. Yeah. Almost like, what was the trainer's name at Balco?
That's what I was going to say. Greg,
what's his face?
Something.
Yeah. That guy's out of prison now. And if he did what I think he did, which was completely take the fall for Barry, I'm sure he's got a 7 to 8 figures in an account offshore somewhere right now waiting for him. And Barry's fucking doing Netflix broadcasts as if we didn't completely cheat the game for many years. But anyways, the Shohei thing, I assumed he was a fall guy. And I'm glad that I listened to the podcast because not only did I prove that I could be convinced away from a conspiracy, and the reason why I and millions of other people are conspiracy theorist fans is that because the conspiracy, especially in this case, is a hell of a lot more interesting than just a guy that was so stupid that he let somebody steal $17 million.
It's kind of a boring story, right? Like not only did he steal 17 million, according to the slimy bookie, he owed him another like 25 on top of that. He was paying him $500,000 every single Monday from Shohei Ohtani's personal Angels salary account.
Yeah. Steve, real fast. You're the professional gambler in the mix here. When I read numbers like he made 19,000 bets that totaled 325 million. Could you just tell me and the listeners how you go from bets that total $325 million to being $40 million in the black and paying 17 million? Like, how do we get to those? Does that mean that he won a lot of money too? Because according to what's his name, he was an awful gambler who just almost lost exclusively all of his money.
Well, I have the numbers here based on what I did in my research. Yeah. And the research was total winning bets, because they didn't really talk about it. They just focused on his losses. Yeah. But obviously when you put in bets, you're going to win. His losses exceeded his wins. He won, according to what I pulled up online, $142 million in winning bets. The problem was his total losing bets was $182.9 million, which is a net loss of about $41 million.
Yes.
So that's 320. Just doing the math. Yeah, 324, 325 of total bets that he put in. It's astounding.
Yep.
And
it's a lot.
And look, and the only reason I think they kept crediting him and just listening to Ippéi on those calls, just like, hey man, can I get a little bit more? I mean, the amount of times that I've said that to a book. Can you bump me up, but not bump me up a million?
Yeah.
You know, I've asked to be bumped up for a week when I was tapped.
Yep.
It was just hilarious because I see myself or my old self a little bit in Ippéi, you know, and the things that he was texting his book. I was never in trouble like that, clearly, but it was just funny to read and get to hear the text messages he sent to Boyer about, hey, man. And then Boyer, look, I think if Boyer doesn't know that this is Shohei's interpreter, there's no chance in hell he's getting bumped every single time he asks. He's just like, look, this guy's paying. He's on time. I'll bump him up. Yeah, it's getting a little out of hand here, but I know he's good for it because he's Shohei Ohtani's interpreter. Now, when it got up into the millions, I'm thinking if I'm Boyer, I was trying to put myself in his position, like, how much does he think an interpreter makes? I mean, the Angels were nickel and diming this guy for $85K a year. Yeah. And then the Dodgers bumped him up between, I think he said between 3 and 5. He didn't answer. Was it over 3? Yes. Was it under 5? Yes.
Pretty nice salary.
Yeah.
Pretty nice salary. And he was bitching. There's there's interviews with him in this podcast, right? Tisha Thompson, so Shohei, we don't know what he knew right away, but his people get him a crisis communication firm. And the crisis communication firm, to their credit, goes, this is an Ippéi story. This is not a Shohei Ohtani story. We need to make Ippéi the face of this, and we're going to go make him talk to the reporter. And so he talks to the reporter. Now, he tells her a bunch of lies, but we don't know they're lies at the beginning. But one thing he does tell her is that I think he said, like, in the off season when he wasn't getting paid by the Angels, that Shohei Ohtani was paying him something like $500 a week to be his full-time guy Friday. To me, and I was like, these guys are so fucking rich. They're tipping the clubby $1,500 a week. We're supposed to believe that Shohei Ohtani is such a miser that the guy that he expects to drive him to dinner, to take him to the bank, to walk his dog, take his dog to the groom, do every single little thing that he needs done for him. He's only going to pay him $500 a week. That was the point where I was like, wait, this guy might be full of shit. Did you guys catch on to that?
I caught on to what he said about paying him, and I'm just like, that just doesn't seem enough to live on, especially since he was living, I guess, down in South Orange County, where
Newport Beach,
where Shohei was living. So that didn't make any sense to me. But I if you see me looking at my phone, it's because I have stuff written down that I'm gonna because I have questions from this podcast. But
ask the questions.
So I guess my question, I'll go to Jason with this first. So Jason, you are convinced after watching or after listening to the podcast. So wait a second. Did you think going into the podcast that Shohei was the one that lost all the gambling money and he pinned it on his interpreter?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I would say that I was unconvinced that Shohei didn't know the entire time that his interpreter was a gambling addict. And I want to say Shohei was like in on those bets. I mean, we've all done this. Hey, I'm taking Brazil to beat Spain. You want in on this? Yeah. Like that. I just assume that I assume Shohei put a buffer between him and the bookie, and he was smart enough to not have any communications. I guess there was 40,000 text messages discovered, and not 1 ounce of booking was discussed, which to me is suspicious. That's just weird. You would think that there would just be a couple offhand comments like, "Did you see that crazy cover last night?" I guess I have a lot of questions, but the short answer to your question is I thought Shohei was involved. I thought he was aware of it. And
so
then
the first story that Ippéi told Tisha.
And then at some point he just made Ippéi be the fall guy, or he asked him to be the fall guy for anything that he couldn't deny.
Okay. I pulled that up. Yes, federal investigators reviewed approximately 9,700 pages of text messages and 1,000 other communications exchanged between Shohei and Ippéi from 2020 to 2024, and not one single piece was them talking gambling. So again, unless federal investigators are lying, is this common in federal investigations that these guys are just going to risk their job and say like, "Oh no, there was plenty of gambling talk, but we have to sweep it under the rug"?
No, they want the biggest fish.
Imagine. Yeah. So I got to believe that that's true, that there was no gambling talk between these two.
Little gay how much these guys were texting each other, by the way. It's just, like, hey, whatever your thing is, but that's a lot of texting between two dudes. It was way too much as far as I'm concerned.
I just don't like absolutes. Like when Deshaun Watson claims, "I've never once been disrespectful to a woman." It's like, why would you say that? Like just out of accident, we have been disrespectful to women.
That's true.
And it's like, when things like happen, red flags go up for me. So it's like, when you say that, why would the feds be motivated to cover Ohtani? I think that there are very influential people in the business sector and Major League Baseball sector that would be like, okay. And I'm going to bring this up and it's going to piss off half the listeners, but there's a reason why Trump's assassination in Pennsylvania hasn't been like thoroughly investigated, because there are influential people that don't want to know or don't want it to be investigated. And it seemed like in this case, the investigation came back so in Ohtani's favor, it kind of made me question it. But like I said, overall, I'm convinced. I'm convinced Ippéi is the thief and Shohei is the dumbest person in the history of people.
Yes. Well, hold on. There's a couple takeaways there. First of all, you got to learn fucking English, dude. You have to. He didn't speak the language, and he was too reliant on the one person he knew that spoke Japanese. He couldn't communicate to his agent. He couldn't communicate to his banker. He couldn't communicate to the team. He couldn't fucking do his own dry cleaning. That's one thing. Secondly, this fucking Shohei Ohtani's been famous his whole life and rich. I guarantee you, this man has never been to an ATM. He probably has a credit card, but he doesn't know where it is because someone that works for him always takes care of the tab. He's never seen a bill. He's never had to do any of the things. He's always relied on other people to do just the regular shit that we have to do as people. So he had this guy Ippéi, and this guy Ippéi was a fucking snake. He's one of the great fake it till you make it. Like no one knows, like he claimed to be some guy on the Yankees interpreter was never his interpreter. That's how he got the job with my personal favorite Japanese team, the Nippon Ham Fighters. He gets a job with the Nippon Ham Fighters, and all of a sudden he sees, oh, this fucking Shohei guy is going to be huge. I gotta latch onto this dude. I'm just a dude from Diamond Bar, and that was my thing when the whole story came out. I was like, well, this is kind of strange, and then I'm like, well, what the fuck was he betting on? Well, he wasn't betting on sumo. He wasn't betting on Japanese rugby. He was betting on, and I was thinking to myself, I go, well, I don't know too many Japanese guys that bet, but I've known a lot of guys from the San Gabriel Valley that bet. And this is the kind of guy this is the kind of thing that a guy like Ippéi from Diamond Bar is betting on. MLS soccer, NBA basketball. So that's kind of like, I was kind of like on board with that from the beginning, and it seems like that's what happened. What else you got, Steve?
All right. Here's something. I think in the very beginning, it might have been the first episode when they were just, or maybe it was in Tish's conversation with Ippéi. Yeah, so that would have been episode 2. She kind of asked him, like, did you not think what you were doing was illegal? Did you understand that having a bookie is not legal? Yeah. And he said no. And I was like, you know what? I kind of believe him. And I kind of believe Shohei wouldn't understand that this is illegal because, like you said, he doesn't speak the language. Yeah. He didn't really know. He came from another country. He still doesn't speak great English. So there is a part of me that's like, this guy doesn't know anything other than standing in the box and swinging out of his ass and leading the Dodgers to an 18-21 record over the last 39 games. And, completely failing recently. That's all he knows. He knows baseball. He doesn't know anything about finances. And he left it all to this guy, like you said, Brian. So, when I heard that, I was like, I can understand. I mean, to me and you, we know that dealing with a bookmaker in, South Orange County or whatever, we know that that's illegal. We know it goes on everywhere in every state, in every city, there's a bookie. But he didn't know that it was illegal, and I can believe it because it's a culture thing. Yeah. He wouldn't know.
I agree.
He's just like, oh, this guy's going to take my bets. This guy that was at a poker tournament down in San Diego with David Fletcher, former LMU shortstop. Oh. This guy. Oh. So, I can, that was believable to me that he does not understand. Dude, what you're doing is illegal. You can't do this. Ippéi wouldn't know.
Yeah, it is strange. It doesn't add up that Ippéi didn't know that was illegal because,
or maybe he couldn't get in that much trouble for it. Maybe something like that.
If you believe all the facts that this podcast brought up, which are basically all the facts that the feds dragged in this situation, Ippéi was very manipulative and very intentional about all of his deceptions. It's like someone with the kind of like the genius or the brain capacity to pull off this kind of deception. Now, I think Shohei is getting way too much of the victim grace in this whole thing. I think that he should have been given from the beginning, and he should be getting more I guess blame for just not being very smart or not being very attentive to his things. Like him playing the fucking blanket victim in this just does. I'm never gonna do that with him. But to your point, it's like I don't believe that Ippéi didn't think it was illegal because he did all these other things that were blatantly illegal, calling the bank and impersonating Shohei Ohtani
is great.
Could not be more blatantly illegal in any country. Just like the shit that he was doing. So for him to be like, I just didn't know it was wrong. That didn't really add up to me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he probably thought, probably not a good idea. I mean, he acknowledged and he understood he was stealing from Shohei and stealing equals bad, but I just don't think he ever thought, even with this type of money going around, I think he just looked at it as like, not good, but what's going to happen? What could possibly happen?
He clearly lacks impulse control. I'll to say the least, which makes me wonder because as an alleged soccer player, we never confirmed that he played soccer. He claimed to play soccer.
Get a team picture of the guy.
Yeah, no one remembers him. But is there the potential that Ippéi Mizuhara at one point sustained some sort of brain trauma, which made it so that he just is not the kind of decision maker. It just doesn't occur to him. He was trying to hedge his bets by buying trading cards with Shohei's money. And then like Steve was telling us earlier, he won some bets. And when he won money, he didn't deposit it back into Shohei's Angels account. He kept that shit for himself.
Yeah.
Just what, like, he had to know that eventually Shohei's going to be like, hey, where's my $89 million that I had in that Bank of America account? You know, like, it's maybe I want to start that working for me, making a little more than 4.3% interest somewhere.
Did you the part about the dentist? So for listeners that don't know,
yes.
Ippéi, I don't know how fucked up your teeth have to be to need $60,000. I think $60,000.
You only got 32 teeth.
Yeah. So the story goes, and this is one of the stories in the podcast that I was not privy to, and I think if you hear it, you're like, okay, then this shows just the depth of how much this guy was scheming.
This is a great example.
$60,000 for dental work.
Yep.
He goes to Shohei because, you know, the Angels or Dodgers health plan didn't cover it or something.
Right.
And he borrows, or actually is given, $60,000 for dental work.
Yep.
The guy, so Shohei gives him $60,000 and he gambles with it. And then he took the money from that he won gambling or something to pay the dentist, or he never got the dental work. One of the other
he did get dental work, but he paid for it. He took the $60,000, and then when he needed the dental work, he just took the money out of Shohei Ohtani's Angels account and paid for his own dental work. He robbed him twice for it.
Yes.
So how about this? Here's a question I have, because I didn't know why this case all came about. For some reason, I was under the impression that the feds were tipped off to Ohtani gambling or Ippéi, or hey, there's something going on between Ohtani and his interpreter. I didn't realize that they were just investigating Boyer, the bookie.
Yeah.
And it just so happened by busting this guy is how they came to the Ohtani stuff. Now look at it this way. What if the feds just never busted Boyer?
Right.
How much does Ippéi steal? It's probably still going on to this day.
Eventually,
unless Ippéi went on a roll and got hot and started winning some money. But can you imagine if the feds didn't investigate Boyer and this never even comes to light? Ippéi is probably still Shohei's interpreter and still stealing from him. Right?
Well,
why would he have stopped?
I have a different opinion. I think eventually he does get caught, but maybe he doesn't get caught by the federal government. Shohei Ohtani catches him, and then just quietly, he starts the season with a new interpreter. And people are like, what happened to Ippéi? And this Shohei Ohtani is so private. Remember when he just randomly showed up and was married one day? And people are like,
Dave Roberts admitted, I didn't even know he had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And he showed up one day married. Yeah.
He's so private that he finds this out privately. He deals with it in-house. Him and Nez Bolello and whatever, his people. Great name for an agent, though, right? You know, you can have Scott, hey, do I want Scott Boras? No, I'll take a Nez Bolello, please. So, like, I feel like eventually, you couldn't hide this forever. Eventually, he's going to run out of his Angels money because he's such a fucking loser that he's going to just keep losing. And, something's going to happen. He's going to get caught. But I feel like it never becomes a story because Shohei deals with it internally and just moves on.
Yeah, I do think that. Yeah, eventually you think that Shohei was going to catch on. I did find it like, I mean, one of the more fascinating parts about this thing that we already knew going into this podcast that is just mind blowing, and believe it or not, for us on the Fall Guys side, this is probably the biggest selling point is that Ippei's initial story to the reporter that he also told to the Dodgers in South Korea was that Shohei was definitely in on the gambling debts. He didn't make any of the bets, but he knew about it and was just being a good guy.
Yeah.
And
paid it off for him.
To think that like Ippei told the world that, he told an ESPN reporter that, so he knows that that's going to be the official story, and he thought that he was going to get away with that. Yeah. Like there wouldn't be any cross-checking, like as if nobody would have gone to Shohei. And that's the thing that's pointed out in the podcast. It's incredible is that Shohei did not know this until Shohei literally said to his interpreter, "What did you say in English to the clubhouse right there?"
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Ippéi tells him what he said, and Shohei's like, "What?"
The team, they make an announcement.
Team meeting in South Korea, yeah.
Before Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani was literally the last to know what was going on with Ippéi and his money. It's crazy. You almost need multiple interpreters, and you have to bring them in separately so that you could you always know that two people are telling the right story, not just one.
I've always kind of been fascinated by interpreters to begin with, because sometimes when you listen to them, the person who doesn't speak English gives like this 45-second answer, and then the interpreter said, "Yeah, he said I was and I hit it really hard." And I'm just like, wait a second, he just talked for 45 seconds. Like that's all he said, So I've always found interpretation fascinating, but that was interesting to me because I was just like, this is crazy. But if the PR person who allowed Ippéi to do that interview with Tisha Thompson was either on the phone or right next to him, first question number one, when Ippéi is saying this on the phone, that I got in over my head. I went to Shohei. I know he had the money, obviously. I asked him if he can bail me out. He said he would. Why didn't the PR person step in then and say, "What the fuck are you saying? What are you doing?" Yeah. Two, why did it take him 24 hours to, right before ESPN was going to run with the original story that Shohei paid off his interpreter's debts? Why did it take them 24 hours to come back and say, he lied about everything last night? And she's just like, wait, what? What? I wanted a little more explanation on that. But here's the naivete in me. And this is something that maybe even sound like a stupid question. I think it is going to sound stupid, but I think I know the answer, but I want to run it by you guys. If the initial story that Ippéi told Tisha Thompson, which is, I lost all the bets, Shohei knew nothing I lost all the bets. I went to Shohei and I said, "Hey man, I got in over my head. Can you bail me out?" And Shohei said, "Yes, I can bail you out. How much do you need? X amount of money. Okay. Yeah. How do we go about doing it?" If that initial story is true, and that is the story that ends up getting out, and let's just say it is true, and Shohei admitted to it, I just bailed my friend out. I have money. He doesn't. I bailed him out. Yeah. What is his penalty by Major League Baseball? I don't think he's suspended for life because he didn't gamble. He bailed a friend out, but he also wired money to an illegal bookmaker. So what do you think the penalty would have been if Shohei was the one that admitted, "Yes, I bailed my interpreter out," who has racked up millions of dollars of gambling debt?
See, that's where Jason's angle comes in, because Shohei he's too big to fail. Like, he is the fucking biggest star they have. So they would have to like quietly
do something to him. But let's just say ESPN's initial story. Yeah. If the PR person doesn't call back in 24 hours, they were set to run with Shohei paid off his interpreter's gambling debts. If that story gets out there and it's proven to be true, what does Major League Baseball do to Shohei? They don't want to suspend this guy for life, but there's got to be some penalty. But he paid in the league. Like, I was like, so he paid an illegal bookmaker. So have I. Like, what's the big deal? Like, what's the big deal? I know it's millions, but
hear me out, and Jason, you can answer. There is some precedence for this, because in 2017, the Houston Astros cheated to win the World Series, and the players were involved. They had a scheme. They had a team-wide organizational plan to cheat using video. And we all know about the trash cans, which then progressed to the Apple iWatches on the chest.
Yeah.
Were there some suspensions that I never heard about? Did any of the players have to pay any sort of penalty at all?
The only guy that got dinged in that was AJ Hinch, right? He lost his job as the Astros let him go, and then
the manager was like, "Guys, don't do that. Don't be doing that. You shouldn't do that. What are you guys doing? Don't do it."
He was out of baseball for a year, and then he got the Tigers gig.
Yeah.
And I think Carlos Beltran was like hired and then unhired by the Mets. But your point is
mastermind.
Yeah. When you said there's precedent for this, I was thinking more along the lines of Pete Rose, and maybe this speaks to how much professional sports association with the gambling industry has changed in the last 40 years. Pete Rose, we all know Pete Rose's story. And one of the conditions to get out of jail, to even be back in baseball's graces if he wanted to, was to not associate with any gambling entities. So I think, to bring it back to this question, I think baseball would have had to come down on Shohei for associating with a legal gambling enterprise. Associating just means I'm aware of my friend making illegal bets, and I obviously on my name and my account transferred funds illegally. So I think that they would have had to ding him for knowledge of the gambling enterprise and being that close to it. I don't know if there's a precedent for that, but it's just but
you got to do
something. It also goes to how much we've accepted those gambling, the Chauncey Billups thing with the NBA this past season. We have found players directly gambling on themselves, and the public hasn't really given a shit. And I don't think the leagues have. They're almost just kind of sweeping it under the rug. So it's a great question by Steve. I don't know what the punishment should have been, but I think it would have been something along the lines of what I said.
Yeah, they would have to do
But again, if it was just I helped a buddy out by giving him money. And here's the other thing. You can take it into the semantics form of this. If he would have, let's just say that all happened, and Shohei would have just given the money to Ippéi, and Ippéi would have paid Boyer, versus
right.
And Ippéi would have set up his own account, and the Ippéi Mizuhara would have been transferring $500,000 9 times to Boyer. But the money came from Shohei. Again, that's 2 different things as well. I gave the money to my buddy. I don't know what he's doing with it. Whether or not he did know or he didn't know, all he's doing is giving money to a friend. It's the fact that it was coming out of his account. Then it just becomes, well, really the only 2 people that truly know, you and I don't know, even though I listened to 6 episodes of this podcast, we truly don't know if Shohei knew or not that he had never known that Ippéi was betting. It seems to me, if I had to lean one way, I would lean towards no, he didn't, because 97,000 pages of, or whatever it was, the number that we were talking about. The text messages, not one thing of betting came up. There's just no, I do believe that he didn't know, but what I'm saying is all he did was bail out a friend. And that's different than Pete Rose, because Pete Rose was a manager of a baseball team and was betting on his own team. And when he wasn't betting, that means he was basically tipping off gamblers that he wasn't confident in the Reds winning that
Mario
day.
Soto
Pete Rose was a gambler himself. Shohei was not gambling on games, on sports, period.
No evidence.
All he did was give money to a friend. It just so happened that the friend used that money in an account that was labeled in Shohei's name. So that's what's weird. I really don't know what penalty they would have given Shohei for this.
It's a good question, but I think the part that you keep bringing up that I also found very informative about the podcast, and this was a great angle by her. There were a couple angles that I thought she kind of fell short of, that she could have followed through more on, but this was a great one because the public takeaway, and Ippéi was doing such a good job of this that I think teammates, people that were in Shohei's orbit every day, thought that Ippéi and Shohei were best of friends.
Yeah. Yes.
And Ippéi very much wanted to give that image through this court case, to where when he wrote that note to the judge to forgive his sentence or to be more lenient, he really leaned into this best friend thing that was doing things for on the cheap and everything else. But I think she kind of she brought up a soundbite that was very telling.
Yes.
And that
she ended the show with it.
Yeah. Shohei answered a question in English at some point in an exchange, basically saying that I don't know if he's a friend of mine, but he's my business partner. And I think that pretty much explains Shohei's completely innocent in this whole thing, where if he just saw him as a business tool who handled every single transaction down to talking to the coach about my swing, to paying off my monthly groceries, whatever, if that's what he was just a business partner tool, then that would explain how Shohei was conned $17 million. I'm not completely believing that, but that was a really interesting angle in this podcast that I didn't quite get the first time around. They weren't necessarily best of friends because that's all we heard about, right?
Yeah.
The entire time.
Yeah.
And Shohei didn't speak English. So he's probably sitting there going, why is everybody laughing? You know, because it's like Ippéi would translate stuff he said, and it sounds like Shohei was making a joke, but that was just the inflection that Ippéi put on what he was saying. If you just take it dry, Shohei's just answering the questions straight. Like, we're not really friends. We're just business partners. And everyone's around there like laughing like it's a joke, but that's kind of like the way Ippéi set it up, that, hey, we're best friends. We're basically brothers. And because Shohei didn't speak English at the time, he was none the wiser to it.
You know, something that Jason brought up in regards to his answer was about like sentencing and all this. When he talked about the sentencing and the letter that Ippéi wrote, and he tried to get a little lenient, and Shohei basically kind of shot him down. But I thought that was interesting because we've seen this on TV shows all the time where you finger somebody, the bad guy, but then they catch the bad guy and they say, and everybody that's watching is like, oh, he's going to get busted. But if the bad guy rats out on the other people and is the and you can get that guy to speak on other things, it's like, okay. So my question then becomes, what did we think of the fact that Ippéi got 57 months and Boyer got 5?
I thought that was a little weird.
Boyer got 5 months for this. According to him, I run the largest bookie operation in the United States.
Oh,
and
he was greasy.
do you have NBA clients? Yes. Do you have Major League Baseball clients? Yes. Do you have ESPN clients? Yes. Like, he's got, I would love to know this guy's client list. I mean, it's pretty big of him to not. He could have brought down a lot of people in that podcast or in any of the podcasts that he's done, because he's done like 50. He goes on everybody's podcast outside of the Baller Lifestyle.
That's true.
But this guy knows where the bodies are buried, and he could absolutely destroy some players in every sport, it seems like. And it doesn't seem like he has the David Fletchers of the world. He's got, I just got the impression that Boyer's got some of the big boys. Oh no.
So your question, your question kind of,
oh, what the hell? You're still here, buddy.
You there?
Hello, Steve. Yeah, Steve, you're here.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You're going to clean this up and edit, Steve?
I'm not.
I mean, Brian?
I don't do that. Oh, no, we lost Steve.
What do you mean you don't clean things up and edit?
No,
Who
fuck
doesn't
no.
do that?
I don't have time for that. You know, I was to what Steve was saying. Oh, now Steve's going to pop up on a different part of the screen.
And then the last time this happened, something funky happened with the delivery. So I think we might be screwed. You might have to do some editing in this. We'll
see. We'll see how much I want to edit. I thought that to what Steve was saying.
Where did I cut out?
We're talking about how Boyer did the least amount of time. I thought the same thing when they had the college admissions scandal, and they're putting the desperate housewife in jail, and they're putting Aunt Becky in jail, and the guy that was ratting on them was the guy that was contracted with them to get all their kids into these colleges. And I'm like, wait, this guy's the bad guy. It's like El Chapo ratting on all of his lieutenants, and then El Chapo gets the least amount of time. It's the same idea with Boyer. Boyer's the criminal here, but he rats on Ippéi. Ippéi gets all the time, and Boyer's out in 5 months, and he's still rich somehow. All that's illegal money that he's taken in.
Yeah, and what happened to all that money that was funneled through Resorts World in Vegas and all that stuff? Like, this guy ratted out to the feds. The feds said, okay, we got you, but if you help us, we'll lower your sentence. We see that on TV shows all the time. I didn't know that was real.
Cooperation.
Yeah. I didn't know that was real. I thought that was just TV shit.
Then he's
I think it happened in Murder in the Presidio, I think. But no, I didn't understand how he got 5 months and Ippéi got basically almost 6 years, right? Or 5 years, right? 57 months.
What I thought was interesting is that Ippéi, despite growing up in Diamond Bar, is a Japanese citizen. So when he gets out, he's going to be deported to Japan, where he's the guy that ripped off the most idolized person in that country. And this is a culture, an ancient culture where respect and honor are everything to them. This guy is going to have to try to live in Japan where he didn't grow up. He just happens to be a Japanese citizen. And now he's got to live there where everyone knows who he is and everybody hates his guts.
Well, when he serves his 57 months, when he comes out, he can't just go back to Diamond Bar and hang out and live here.
He's a Japanese citizen.
He has to leave. He has to get deported.
I think so. Yeah.
Then he better go under an assumed name and buy some more chompers, different chompers, because he will be stalked in Japan because people will want to beat his ass, even though nothing's happened to Shohei other than him having a below average season.
Yeah. But he stole from him.
Yeah.
No, we're never gonna hear from Shohei about this. We're never gonna hear from his representation about this.
He said as much.
It is like I thought this when I was watching the Manti Te'o documentary, where it is the most humiliating thing that I've seen a person go through, and to think that I think this is like times 10.
Yeah,
I guess the Manti Te'o thing was a little bit more sexy, a little bit more innuendo and stuff, but like salacious. But like to admit and to try to reason with people how you could just lose 17 million. I guess in a lot of ways it's like a huge flex that you didn't know it was gone, but it also speaks to just your complete stupidity or lack of awareness or lack of engagement. Again, I'm not going to let him off the hook on this. Shohei has been let off the hook, and at the very least, he is not bright. At the worst,
too trusting, I would say. Yeah.
I think it's a culture thing. He hasn't cared to know the language. How many years has he been playing Major League Baseball? He doesn't give one interview in English. Yeah. I think it's a culture thing. He came over here, and as we know, he just pawns everything off to everybody else. You handle this. My agent handles this. Ippéi handles this. Yeah. And he just lives in his own little bubble, and it's all insulated, and nothing gets out. And he doesn't care to seemingly fit in with the culture. I mean, we don't even see, not that he has to go out partying on the Sunset Strip or anything, but we never see paparazzi pictures of Shohei. And if it is, it's him walking with his baby. I mean, if anything, Beckner can go find him and see if he's walking his dog in Orange County. Like,
he lives
look for him.
He lives in La Cañada now. He bought Adam Carolla's house. He lives in Adam Carolla's old.
Oh, he does? Yes. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Okay. You know what was interesting to me that I'd forgotten? This whole story broke while Jason Stewart was firing off a series of tweets about how baseball was ruining the season by having opening day in Korea.
Yeah.
And this story broke right before the very first game of the season. And then Shohei went on to have one of the greatest seasons in the history of Major League Baseball. While this whole thing was going on around him, it is embarrassing to him. Like all of this stuff is terribly, terribly embarrassing to somebody who's very private, and yet he's able to compartmentalize and absolutely just go nuts that year and win the World Series.
Yeah, it is pretty amazing that this was all happening. Because remember, I think at the time, the consensus was, oh my gosh, happened on opening day. It broke that first week. Everybody was like, this is going to be on Shohei's mind all season long. Yeah. He can't concentrate. And then he went out and did 50-50 and almost did 55-55.
Yeah.
He was one home run short of 55-55.
Like,
and so clearly it didn't matter. And then the next year he put up another 50-50. And then this year, frankly, he fucking sucks.
And for the record, because I do want to be consistent. I believe in consistency.
That's true. Thank you for that.
It is utterly ridiculous to start a major league season in a foreign country in the middle of the night. And if you were, and if your argument is, but all those Koreans and Southeast Asians love Ohtani, it's an amazing opportunity to grow the game. It's like, if it was an exhibition game, do you think the fans would care any less? You think it was important for those foreign fans to be like, this has got to be, it's better counter us. I'm not going to pay my $100 for the ticket. No. Just make those exhibition games and start every fucking major league season on the same day.
That's right.
In the morning at the Cincinnati Reds ballpark.
That's right. Great American ballpark. Yes. I agree with you. How do you feel? Speaking of that, Jason, I believe the NFL season is starting this year with that snake. What's his name? Kyle Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
Your public enemy number one, the man who should be jailed for his offenses against the fantasy community.
Yes.
The NFL is starting their season in the fucking southern hemisphere of Australia, where they play on an ovular field.
Yes.
Like, what is this bullshit?
Second game of the season, but yeah.
The NFL, to me, when they do these games in foreign lands at weird times on a streamer, by the way.
Yeah.
And
that's all sports now.
They know that 40 million people are going to watch. Like, it's the NFL, to me, is just testing the boundaries of what their viewers will go to watch their product. And they're almost batting a thousand.
Yeah, they're bet. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anywhere they put it on whatever matchup.
Antarctica, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Game 1.
Wednesday, September 9th is the season opener.
Oh.
And that is Seahawks rematch of the Super Bowl, Seahawks Patriots. On NBC.
Wow.
And then the Thursday game is Rams 49ers in Australia, which will be noon Australia time, 5 p.m. Pacific, for us for us in the States. So
I just realized something's terrible.
Uh-oh. What?
I'm going to have to pay attention to which teams are playing each other because of my status as a contestant in the Reality Steve NFL Survivor Pool 2026-27.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to pick the Rams or the Niners. You're not going to use one of them for your first week.
You got to use everybody once.
Yeah. But you wouldn't do that. It's too close of a game to call.
Yeah, right.
And plus there's 3
it's in Australia. Yeah.
And there's 3 games on Sunday that are all over a touchdown right now. So
yeah.
That is important, though, that if you go to the Splash Sports app, download the Splash Sports app.
Yeah.
And then you if you search Reality Steve Survivor Pool, we're gonna get what, thousands and thousands of people.
That's right.
I don't know about thousands and thousands.
I'm planning to win
but we if you want to be in it, it's $10 per entry.
That's right.
Up to 20 entries. Just go to Splash Sports in the search bar, just type in Reality Steve. You'll see my profile come up, click that, and then you'll see next to me my contest, Reality Steve Survivor Contest. And then just go in, sign up, you pay your money, and you are in. You just pick one NFL team a week. That's it. However many people pay to get you in the pool, that's the pot at the end of the year after 18 weeks, or if it doesn't even last 18 weeks. It's just winner take all. So we'll see how many are in it. I would think I could pull at least 50 to 100 entries, which is $500 to $1,000 at the end of this thing.
250. I'm thinking 250.
It's possible. Like, it's really weird because I have no idea. We're at 37. As we record this right now, we're at 37 people that have signed up in 3 days. So
I'm a fan of Survivor stuff. My guy Dan Boyer got me into the Survivor stuff. I very much recommend the Survivor March Madness, but I did a Survival World Cup this past year.
Yeah. Did you get fucked on Egypt?
Well, you go to Splash Sports, and there were a bunch of Survivor picks. I mean, Survivor pools together.
You could just jump in.
Many. There's so many during NFL season. You can do tons of others besides mine.
I'm exclusive to Reality Steve Survivor Pool, by the way. Go ahead, Jason.
But my personal experience with World Cup is there was a $100,000 prize pool on a $15 entry pool. So in other words, there were a billion people in this pool. And then you go into the rules. I didn't know this after I put my 5 entries in, that you could do up to 200 entries. Yeah. People were going up to 200 entries on this pool. It was fucking ridiculous.
Crazy.
And then, so by the end of the Survivor pool, even though I had like maybe a path to be left standing, I would have been sharing it with like 1,000 people. It wasn't that fun.
Right.
So
Do you know how many ended up winning it?
There's like 500 people would be great. If you can get 500 people, that would be amazing.
Oh, so you don't want too many is the point. Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, Jason, I don't know how many we're getting. We're not getting 500. Yeah. There's no way I get 500
I think we
people
can.
in my own.
I think we can.
I think we can. Yeah.
Yeah. This podcast.
I'd like to. I'd like to.
Steve,
that's
you're a big star, buddy.
I'd like to. That's that's a $5,000 pot for a $10 investment. I think. Yeah. I mean, I'd love to. Yeah. I just don't think we're going to get that, but we'll see. The last thing that needs to be pointed out about this podcast.
Do it.
I think it's probably the most important fact that Tisha Thompson did not cover. The fact that, I mean, she did mention the fact that Ippéi Mizuhara attended Diamond Bar High School, but she did not mention is in January of 1992. The Diamond Bar, I think they were the Dolphins or something like that. Yeah. The Diamond Bar Dolphins had to travel to Los Alamitos, California for a first round basketball playoff game against the Los Alamitos Griffins. And we absolutely beat the living piss out of them, 81-53, with yours truly making 6 3-pointers and scoring 24 points in the game, 3 in the first quarter.
Wow.
Got us off to a good start, 16-5 lead. I will say, though, there was only one player on that court that day that was a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. It wasn't me. It was Keith Van Horn, and he was on that Diamond Bar team. And it was funny because I remember it like it was yesterday. He was very, skinny, white, 6'9". He had the total skate. I mean, he looked like Skater Boy. He had the total skater hair where it flopped over. Every time he ran, his hair would flop on his head. And when we're doing the scouting of him that week before the game, our coach is like, trust me, guys, I know what he looks like, but he's really, really good. And he led them in scoring that game. But I just want to make it known that we waxed Diamond Bar. But
it was it was
53.
Well, considering they had Keith Van Horn, I imagine it was Keith Van Horn and then like 4 Ippéis.
No, they had a good team. They just didn't really
bring it that day.
No, I think what Brian's getting to is they had Keith Van Horn and 9 Asian guys.
Yes,
they had no Asians on their team.
What?
No.
Diamond Bar?
No, it was not an Asian team at all. At least the guys that played. I remember they had some guys that were African American on their team that started and were playing. We just were a better team that day, and we killed them. And I just want to make it known that that's my indirect relation to Ippéi Mizuhara.
I would say that every day if I were you, Steve.
And I think it's a case of just like Ridgemont High. I think when Jefferson, they just flew in for home games. They just to extend the 6 degrees of Keith Van Horn, 3 or 4 years later, Rick Majerus would bring his Utah Utes into the Titan gym to play the Titans, and Van Horn was on that team. So I saw him in person that night.
Were you broadcasting or were you just in the stands?
No, I was a fan. Yeah, in the student section. Yeah.
Jason Fullerton was just a fan. You didn't do any broadcasting at Fullerton?
I think it was not long after that Rick Majerus made his way into the XR4TI studios and did some work on several dozen Krispy Kreme donut boxes. Jason, can you share the details of that?
It's amazing you remember that. Rick Majerus comes in, and it just so happened to be like Jim's like celebrating his 5th year in syndication or something. So there was like 5 boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts in the studio. Somebody had sent over. And so I said, Rick, can I get you a donut? And he said, I could probably I'll just take one. And then, the joke is 1 box,
Yeah.
How many did he? I mean, he honestly ended up eating a lot.
No, I think he just had 1. I think he was
that's not
conscientious.
No, that's not what I heard. That's not what I heard.
There is a mutual. Going back to my days of working for Jim, I remember this story specifically. There is a mutual friend that all 3 of us have.
Yeah.
That I remember when I was working there told the story that.
Oh yeah.
He knows about Rick Majerus in Hawaii with someone else's wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
we'll tell it off air. We don't need to. We don't need to bring it up. In case it gets back to anybody.
Rick Majerus did work.
Apparently, Rick Majerus was with somebody's wife. We all know her. You all know her.
Whoa.
But
He was a man of tremendous
apparently he
desires.
He had a woman in the media world that he took to Hawaii to have fun time with.
Did work. Okay, guys. Right. I have the heart out. I think we covered it all. That was a fantastic. We should do this again, Steve. Great idea.
Find a podcast.
Yeah. If there's more things we need to discuss, we can all come together here to do it. It was very fun to do it here, and I'm happy that we got to. For Jason Stewart, for the great reality Steve, my name is Brian Beckner. This has been a special episode of the Baller Lifestyle Podcast. We will see you next time.